my Mary Kay story encompasses almost 22 years. Charlie's story was written so little readers would learn from his experiences, and my story might be told so you could benefit from my experiences and the wisdom I've gained. If I were going to tell you that story, not about Charlie the caterpillar, but about Jeanie the consultant, I'd start with the August day in 1988 that I joined Mary Kay and ordered $2,400 of inventory. I was wearing cut-off blue jeans and had never had a Mary Kay product on my face. I was being interviewed by a woman in a drop-dead gorgeous designer dress who'd driven to my house in a pink Cadillac. Some people may not have recognized that I was going to grow up to be an awesome butterfly. I had a bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in reading. I'd been teaching high school English for years, and I liked what I did, but I'd always wanted to own my own business. Let's go back to the book and back to my past for just a minute. In the book, Charlie the caterpillar asks some monkeys if he can play with them, and they tell him he is ugly and to get out of here. When I was in high school, I was the smart one, not the pretty one. Badly permed hair, funny-looking glasses, skinny as a rail, no fashion sense at all, and the boys didn't ask me to go out. In the book, little Charlie wants to play with some rabbits, and they tell him he's ugly and to get out of here. When I went to college, I went through Rush, and the good-looking girls' sorority, they didn't ask me to join. Charlie wants to play with a couple of mice, and they tell him he's ugly and to get out of here. And in a small town, I got divorced. And the married couples, they didn't ask me to come along. And that's when Charlie and we went into our cocoon time. For Charlie, it was only a winter season, and it passed. For me, it might have been years in my lifetime, but I did come out of my cocoon with all the trappings to become an awesome butterfly. I remarried an incredible man. We were raising 2 amazing daughters. I really enjoyed teaching high school English, and that's when Mary Kay came along. I was already a butterfly, but I needed something more to be the best butterfly I could be. I needed friends who thought I was smart, who thought I was pretty, and who wanted to play with me. And through Mary Kay, I entered a whole world filled with caterpillars and butterflies who are now my offsprings, my area consultants, and my dearest director and national friends. But deep inside back then, even though I was a bona fide butterfly, a part of me didn't believe it. I would climb the Mary Kay ladder a rung, and I'd worry about staying there or going higher. I was always afraid I didn't have what it takes. As I grew up in my Mary Kay world, I thrived on the recognition. Oh my gosh, the first time I was queen of our fall quarterly event and sat on a haystack throne, I felt so proud. But for quite a while, I was intimidated by the car drivers and the directors. Maybe I was still thinking of the boys in high school who didn't ask me out. When I became a director, I was so in awe of the unit club directors and the Cadillac directors, and I knew all their names at the Chicago directors meetings and at leadership conferences, but I never talked to them. Maybe I was still thinking about the sorority girls in college who didn't think I added up. When I became a Cadillac director, I was so in awe of those trip-taking directors, but I could never talk to them. Maybe I was still thinking about the couples in our small town who never asked me to join them. When I became a trip-taking director, I was so in awe of those $1 million directors that I could never talk to them comfortably because they knew so much more. And they did so much more, and it must be an accident that I was on that top director trip. When I finally went on 5 and 6 and then 7 trips, and our unit did million, not once but twice, I wondered wondered if I might actually be able to move into the national position. Oh, but there are so few nationals, I told myself, and the requirements seem so demanding, and there are so many directors I know who want to be nationals and aren't. How can I even think that I can make it? And in spite of all those worries, I now have stationery that has NSD next to my name. Even now I had a few nervous moments, wondering, how am I going to fit in? Do any of you think that words from your past are still in your head and sometimes they stop you from enjoying who you are? Was there ever someone along the way who made you feel you weren't good enough and you didn't add up? Do you ever worry about getting to the next level and not being able to stay there or climb higher? Isn't it about time I feel confident in my own wings? I've been on 8 top director trips, and in May, my second national trip, I should feel confident. I'm sitting over at that table, but I am at the end. And the nationals here, they've all been friends for years and years and years, and they're so much more successful. Seriously, when am I going to feel that I've arrived? Maybe you too have felt uneasy. Maybe you would like to be a caterpillar who evolves. Will you allow me to share how Jeanie Consultant transformed into 22 years into a magnificent Mary Kay National Butterfly? Way back at the beginning of my story, I mentioned that when a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, it's a process. So let's look back to see what kind of energy I generated during my metamorphosis. One big Mary Kay jump was going from consultant in 1988 to director in 1990. My energy came from holding 3 to 5 appointments a week, and at that time I was a full-time high school English teacher who was the National Honor Society advisor, the senior class advisor, and the SAD advisor, and I had 2 daughters in grade school who were in every sport, and I was holding 3 to 5 appointments a week. The reward for this energy I experienced was I earned money to take my daughters and husband to Rome to visit my brother who was living there. And for 2 years, I was on the Queen's Court of Personal Sales and number 9 in the Emerald Division. And that meant that I had to wear a sequined gown and pick up a diamond ring on a stage. And as I stood at the top of those seminar stairs, I might have remembered those high school boys who never asked me out. And each consultant filled in her name and her order on the bumper and on the license plate of the poster. As we won that caddy, one order, one face at a time. And as a reward, our unit had a car party at the dealership, and the dealer had pink cookies and pink punch. And my unit members brought pink balloons, and we all piled in the trunk of that pink caddy. And we took a picture as I signed my name twice. Drove out of the showroom with a $40,000 vehicle, and as we headed to a restaurant for dinner to celebrate, I thought about all those sorority girls who never and I wondered how many of their friends joined them when they picked up their last car. And my that first trip to Rome, there was a huge surge of energy because my daughter Amy had decided to work her Mary Kay business, and she was a consultant who actually did everything I asked. Now, not always as a teenager, but as a consultant. She took out a loan to order her star order. She booked her power starts. She drove hours to a weekly meeting. She squeezed in every event. She did faces and brought guests and did 3-way interviews, and because she did what I asked, she had great sales and won a car, and my unit saw it all working. And they caught the excitement, and they were working too, and having their personal successes. And our unit jumped from the $450,000 level to the $750,000 level. And I because we were a trip-taking unit. How's that for energy? And do you think that I cared about those married couples who years before didn't ask me to join them? Well, let me tell you about our rewards. My husband got so excited when he realized that we might actually win a trip to Rome, he promised my unit a party. He would host an Italian night at our house. And we coordinated it with my daughter Amy's business debut. And there were over 90 people there. And we live on a lake. And it was a magical, spectacular July night. And there were tiny Italian flags lining the walkways and delicious Italian food served by waiters and sultry Italian music wafting out over the lake. And twinkling Italian lights in the trees. And my son-in-law directed cars. And a golf cart brought the people to the house. Some drove over 3 hours to be there. And the stars were sparkling on the lake that warm summer night. And Amy, pregnant with my first grandchild, gave a speech and said, "Mom, you started Mary Kay 15 years ago to take our family to Rome to see Uncle Jeff. I just hope that my Mary Kay efforts this year are a little payback and help send you and Reed back to Rome." And ladies, what kind of energy do you imagine that night generated? I feel that Amy gave belief to women who couldn't relate to me. She was young and having kids and working Mary Kay as a full-time business, and that generated a new belief in the Mary Kay opportunity, and other young women in my unit believed they also could grow leadership skills, and consultants jumped on board wanting more. Some of these consultants became my 21 offspring directors because they held full-circle skincare classes, and they asked for referrals, and they booked from those classes, and they did interviews with their hostesses, and they sponsored new consultants who went to their pink boot camps. And the ones going to the top, they communicated weekly and then daily via Intelliverse and email and on the phone. And what are the rewards? Well, those directors, they were the charter IT girls, and their units are now recognized as the IT national area. And we went to Dallas, and we stood on the seminar stage in black suits and red high heels, and all of us, along with my grandkids, we danced on that stage. I got a feeling it was a flash mob, the first one in Mary Kay history. Sharp from a butterfly. And how did I get to this podium? How did Charlie Caterpillar, Jeanie the consultant, how did I grow into a national sales director? John Maxwell's law of process says that leaders develop daily, not in a day. Charlie took 22 pages, and I took 22 years. You don't have to take 22 years, but there's something you gotta know about caterpillars. If you try to help them unravel their cocoon, they're not strong enough to survive. If you ever nudge them off the end of a branch before they're ready to fly, they're gonna fall. And they're going to die. Caterpillars, they get their strength and their beauty from the arduous process of spinning their own cocoon and fighting their way out of it. The struggles they have make them strong enough to take on the obstacles that they'll face. You can't shorten the process, and each of you caterpillars out there is unique. There are consultants who finish directorship in 1 year, and those who take 6 years or 16 years. And there are directors who make national in 2.5 years, and those who take 22. It's your journey, your cocoon, your process. Remember that if Charlie had allowed those other animals to make him feel ugly, it wouldn't matter how he looked or what he did. On the inside, he'd still be ugly. And when you've learned the skills and generated the activity and created enough energy, you are going to fly. And I know that you are going to be the most beautiful butterfly ever. And I'll be sitting over there, maybe not at the end, at the National Sales Director table, for maybe only 5 more years. Hurry, please. I'll be eagerly waiting to applaud you. Thank you.